Hello, hello. This is the Awful and Awesome Entertainment Wrap. I'm Abbas,
And I'm Nainika.
and it's the second week in a row that we are your
Yeah,
hosts.
what are we, Abbas?
It almost feels like we are the regulars.
Yeah, exactly. We're almost taking over this whole operation.
Yeah,
But people will now have to tolerate and maybe even like us.
yes, maybe, probably, maybe in the 600 by the 600th fan mail episode, people will be like, yeah, they're not so
Yeah,
bad.
they're not terrible. Like, we can tolerate them. It's
Yeah,
fine.
but Abhinandan and Rashri, if you're listening to this, whenever guys are back in the studio, please introduce yourselves as the guest hosts because yeah, seems to be getting more and more regular that we are doing this, but not that I mind.
Yeah, yeah.
So on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a Amazon Prime series, which was which was like the talk of the town, called Dahaad. We're going to be talking about another Amazon Prime film that premiered on Amazon Prime called Air, directed by Ben Affleck. A smaller film that came on Amazon Prime this week, which is actually from last year, but I happened to catch it and I was very impressed by it. It's called Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. And I made Nainika listen to heavy metal. And
We'll
we're
talk
going to
about
be
the
talking.
experience shortly.
Oh, I cannot wait. Uh,
uh,
I think it's safe to say whatever it was, it'll still be better than Drake.
for sure. That goes without
Yes.
saying.
So we're going to be reviewing the new Metallica album called 72 Seasons.
Yes.
And if time permits us, we will talk about a book that
Yes.
Nainika has read and would like to talk about.
It's a
Nainika,
book
what's the
that is
book
a
called?
2019 book, but it suddenly shot up in popularity. And we'll discuss exactly why the sudden case of popularity happened. It's called This Is How You Lose the Time War. So, yes, let's proceed.
All right, so let's start with the buzzy Amazon Prime original
Yes.
web series that came out. It's called Dahaad. It's produced and written by Zoya Akhtar and Rima Kagti. Kagti.
Kagti.
So, Nainika, what did you think of Dahaad?
I definitely thought it was a very intense watch. It deals with like this, like so I mean it's a very menacing storyline when you actually think about it, because the way that the serial killer acts and the way he sort of targets his victims, you understand why, like, he's targeting women primarily, and you understand exactly why these women are so susceptible to what he's trying to do. So it just becomes menacing in that way, because you're like, this man is clearly good at the job that he's doing. He's getting the thrill out of killing, whatever. I thought it was definitely like it made for a good, decent watch. Like, I was hooked in from the first episode and I did want to finish the whole
Right.
thing. It definitely had excellent production design and it was definitely very well done, which is any, like, I mean, if it's a Zoya Akhtar production, it's definitely going to have that quality, which it did. And I was quite happy with that. What about you?
I liked it. I think that 8 episodes was a little too long
Oh my God,
for.
I was going to say the exact same thing, that despite the fact that I mostly have very good things to say about the show, it was definitely a drag. Like, 8 episodes felt a little too much to me,
Yes.
especially because I had to watch it in like a short period of time to
Hmm.
come and record and talk about this. So
Hmm.
I was just like, I was up at like 2 a.m. trying to be like, okay, I have to get through another episode. And even though the show is engaging and, quite
Yes.
decently
Yes.
well done, like I mean, a lot of like spy movies or serial killer movies, you'd be like, why is this glaring, like, plot hole there? And why does this not make sense? It wasn't like that. Like, the storyline was definitely clean and tight in that regard, that it was definitely like at times it went over the top, but even then you didn't feel like, okay, this is just plain absurd. It definitely
Yeah.
was, very well written and definitely had time and thought put into it. But yeah,
Yeah.
at 8 episodes even, I was like, okay, this is getting a little too laborious for me. Like, it did not need to be as much.
So the way the story follows is what is like commonly known as a police procedural, which is
Yes.
that the audience knows who the killer
Mm-hmm.
is, but the cops don't. So it
Correct.
essentially is a cat and mouse game. And rather than a who done it, it's like, will the cops be able to catch this guy
Yes.
in time?
Yes.
I think that around the 5th episode mark, that becomes a weakness for the show. I would have liked if they would have included some sort of suspenseful elements in it, where even they kept the audience guessing what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
I thought if there were more cliffhangers, more what happens next kind of a feeling for the viewer,
I think they
it would have
tried to
helped.
create it definitely, but I think it like definitely fell flat when it didn't need to.
I just feel we're told from the get-go, from episode one, who the perpetrator is. I think
Yes,
even if they would have just delayed that a little bit, because
correct.
Vijay Verma's character, who's the character name is Anand Swarnakar, he portrays this very balanced and fair teacher in a school, right?
Mm.
So had we
No, no,
been
no, no. He
introduced to
just
that,
looked balanced and fair. Even when he was
no,
teaching
yeah,
in the
of course.
class and
So
giving
that's
his lecture, I thought this is the slimiest man in the history of my God.
I would have liked the makers to sort of build up that character over a course of 2, 3 episodes and then drop the bombshell to
So
the audience
I a
that,
fair,
oh my
fair,
God,
fair.
he's the killer.
But I definitely felt like Vijay Verma as a serial killer. He is so quietly menacing. It is very interesting to watch. He was a very well fleshed out character. He was very well done. He definitely had like that, that oligonous, like this slimy thing to
Yeah,
him, where
yeah,
you were
yeah,
just
yeah.
definitely like, this is not a man I would like in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he was so well sketched out. I feel like Sonakshi Sinha, who's supposed to be the lead, fell flat in a way, in the sense, not
Yeah,
that she didn't do a good job, or that, the character, like the writers did not write her very well. It's just that Vijay Verma is so well fleshed out as like a
yeah.
person, that Sonakshi Sinha just feels like she's an antithesis to him, instead
Correct,
of being a
yes.
person in her own right, I guess.
And
Um,
she's acting against Gulshan Devaya, who's very good in this. So I think in
yes.
that regard, even her character becomes even a little more subdued in that sense.
For sure.
Um,
I think they really tried to
oh,
make her this, like femme fatale, not femme fatale exactly, but this like badass woman, career woman, and everything.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it worked a
I
little,
also
but
think she was, I mean, as compared to the other actors, she kept losing her Rajasthani accent
okay, the
every once in a while.
accent was a problem to me entirely. Like,
Okay,
I only Vijay Verma managed to do a decent accent, but that's because he's
okay.
actually from Rajasthan, so I feel like he can emulate some of that better than the others. But yeah, the accent, like Gulshan Devaya very clearly has like he does not sound Rajasthani in any way. Like that is
Okay.
not a Marwadi man, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, wonderful actor in any case. Like Soham Shah, I've actually been a huge fan of him ever since Tumbad and that other movie Talwar he
Oh,
did.
right. He was in
He was
Tumbad.
in
Yeah,
Tumbad
that's
and
what
he
I've
was
seen
in
him.
Talwar as well against Irfan Khan. And even then he held his own pretty decently. So I thought, even he did a decent job as like this sort of like a funny, like a little bit of a bumbling fool of for a policeman.
I think that the show portrays the police as too
Oh,
nice, as
absolutely.
too well
Absolutely.
intentioned.
Absolutely.
I think only Soham Shah's character, which is Kailash Pargi,
Yes.
seems like he has some, like, selfish intentions for
Correct.
promotion and stuff.
Correct.
They almost paint the cops as if,
They're
so
saintly and
the
nice.
saintly, yeah,
They did try to
the
show,
woke police.
yeah, they did try to show like a little bit like, one of the cops is very clearly casteist, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
even then,
But
like the focus is
so the
on like,
first two episodes, they
yeah,
deal with the whole the storyline, which then gets dissolved,
correct.
where a Muslim a Hindu girl has run away with a Muslim boy,
Yes.
and then they have this character who's like a local politician who's come to protest outside the police station,
Mm-hmm.
and he's threatening to lynch the boy, and वो लड़के का मुंह काला वगैरह कर
Yeah.
देते हैं. So then in the first two episodes, there is that direct thing where there is political pressure on the police, so they have to do something about it.
Correct.
But the whole thing where the police orchestrates, like the Gulshan Dave and Sonakshi Sinha character go behind the officer's back and make him escape and help him,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, I think it's a little too hard to believe. I think the police, not that they're not under pressure, but I would have liked them to portray the police department a little more realistically,
Realistically, yeah.
rather than the do-gooders that
They were,
they
yeah,
are
whatever
portrayed to be.
police officers were focused on, they were all actually kind of nice, which is like,
Yeah,
not just
exactly.
nice, they were all really efficient and really good at their jobs,
Yes.
which is rare, let's be
Yeah.
very honest. In fact, like half of these, so this premise of like women of a lower strata of society going missing or being murdered is not a new trope at all. Like even in Jack the
Mm-hmm.
Ripper scenario, for the longest time he went undetected because he made it a point to only murder like sex workers or women that were already like living away from families, discarded by the society in a way. And a lot of the times, these serial killers, etc., they go under the radar because nobody really cares for the victims that actually go missing. Like,
Mm,
there's been so
mm.
many scenarios of women of native Indian American origin going missing in these states because nobody really, they already come from impoverished backgrounds. Their families can't really fight for them. They tend to, like, it's a very frequently repeated, oft repeated storyline, and usually these women fall through the cracks because police departments or authorities in general don't really care about them.
Mm,
So, to
mm.
show like this particular scenario where like the entire department would be mobilized to care for women that, already are societally rejected, it's a little, like, I mean, sure, I
Yeah.
guess it's a little insane. And even then, like, Sonakshi Sinha in one particular scene, she's just cursing the, the parents, like the girls' families, that they were
Mm.
already pressurizing them so much. They didn't care for these women at all. They wanted them gone as a burden or whatever. I'm like, okay, she maybe, she understands, I guess. That's why she's so emotionally invested. But it doesn't make sense for everybody else to, like, these women often fall
Yeah.
through the cracks. Do you want to talk about Sonakshi Sinha's performance? Like, do you think she did a good job? What did you like
I
think
think
of her
she's
character? Huh?
trying hard, and I mean, she's not bad, but like I said, she's surrounded by better actors, and yeah, little things like dropping the accent once in a while, and yeah, I mean, for someone who has fought the caste system to be where she is,
Mm-hmm.
I would have wanted um, a more sort of solid and more driven woman, or a driven character than the one I saw. So yeah, that was what I felt.
Yeah, I thought like a lot of like the scenes where they want to establish her bravado or her masculinity, they seem a little like a little, a little like they fall flat. Like there's this scene where she gets like catcalled on the street and she just like responds with anger or whatever. And I was just like, okay, it's, and a lot of the sexism that she faces as a female cop in a state like Rajasthan, which is known for being regressive against women in general.
Mm.
It was just like like one and done sort of a mention. Like it's not extreme. She doesn't really make a huge concentrated effort to deal against it. It just sort of happens, and she just like, she just sort of lets it pass in a way.
I disagree actually, because I think there's that one scene where her mother is pestering her to see a boy, and instead of, she shows her a photo of a boy, and
Yeah.
in place of that she shows her the photos of all the victims
Right.
of Vijay Verma,
Right.
of Vijay Verma's character, actually,
Right.
not Vijay Verma the actor. So I think there is that sense that she's driven by this case because she's aware that so many innocent women were killed.
Fair.
So I
Okay.
need to bring justice to that. So that's what I felt.
Yeah, I was just more talking about like, the workplace kind of, because she has like Gulshan Devaya is a very
Sure.
good boss to her, and they clearly have great camaraderie. But the
Right.
other like the other officers are not, like, her superiors make one or two remarks here and there, but they're usually like mostly quite respectful of her in a certain sense. I thought that was yeah, it
Yeah.
was interesting to watch. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought she's done a good job. She's held her own for these 8 episodes. Yes, I mean, dropping the accent, I think it's difficult to keep it up without like an accent coach or something.
I would say though, so there's this thing where I know for a fact that at least for one of Zoya's films, she wrote the dialogue entirely in English,
Hmm.
and then someone else comes and sort of
Oh,
translates
this
that
is
in Hindi.
100% the
So
situation here
yeah,
as
and
well.
that was
There were
like very
instances where they're like, "Arey
yeah,
bhuse
there
mein
was
se sui nikalenge." I was just like, or somebody is like, which is a direct translation of, looking for a needle in a
exactly, yeah. There's
haystack.
a
Then there's
scene where
another dialogue.
Vijay Verma's wife confesses to an affair,
Uh-huh.
and Vijay replies by saying "मजाक कर रही हो क्या?" Which is literally like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
and there
that's
was
like,
another one which was like, there is no smoke, like a direct translation of there is no smoke without fire, which is not
huh,
an Indian or a Hindi, like an idiom at
proverb.
all.
Yeah,
It's not a
yeah,
proverb that way. So
yeah.
it's very clear that it was written in English and then
And then
translated to
translated
Hindi.
to Hindi.
But yeah, it's interesting. Even translators like actually translate. One of the hardest jobs is to translate idioms from one
Mhm,
language to
mm,
the other because
mm.
because it requires you to know cultural background.
Yeah,
So clearly the translator missed out there, and it was a little too evident. I think they should have been a little bit more careful about that.
yeah. Okay, before we move on, I'd like to tell you about News Laundry's Press Freedom Fund. Why is press freedom important? How healthy is the Indian media ecosystem? And what are the pressures on news organizations? So, India is placed at number 161 on the Press Freedom Index. And these questions need to be answered. So, to answer these questions and to celebrate press freedom, News Laundry has launched a Press Freedom Fund, an NL Sena project that will include deep dive reports, commentaries, and videos on press freedom. the health of the media ecosystem, and pressures faced by the civil society and media in India. Help News Laundry tell these stories by contributing to the NL Sena project. They plan to top up the fund by May 31st. So let's do this. You can contribute by logging on to www.newslaundry.com/nl-sena/press-freedom-fund. That's newslaundry.com/nl-sena/press-freedom-fund. You will find the link in the description. Okay, so this is the point where we have to say goodbye to our video viewers who are watching us on YouTube. The rest of the episode in the audio form can be found on the News Laundry website or app. And just like I did last time, I would urge you to please listen to the rest of the episode. Please find the rest of the episode on newslaundry.com.
The subscription model is something that keeps News Laundry afloat, but we need hundreds of thousands of people to completely transform the news ecosystem. So you pay for news, so it serves you. So click on the link with this video, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free, और गर्व से कहो मेरे खर्च पर आज़ाद है खबरें.